our Sunday service. My brother shoved me down the steps. My parents laughed. Don't make drama. Oliver sank into the worn wooden pew, the smell of old hymnal books swirling around him like a suffocating fog. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the floor. But all he could see was the back of Max's head, bouncing like a wild spring. His younger brother, a bundle of chaos and laughter, somehow always caught the eye of every congregant. Oliver could barely breathe, his chest tight as the familiar tune of Amazing Grace began, the congregation humming along like a swarm of bees. While his peers were busy reciting the scripture, his mind drifted outward, imagining dragons and spaceships, adventures that danced just beyond the heavy wooden doors of the church. He didn't belong here. Each note of the hymn felt like a taunt, reminding him of the adventures he yearned for but wouldn't find among the hymnals and prayer cards. He tried to foe. He landed with a thud, the breath knocked from his lungs. The murmurs of the congregation morphing into a chaotic symphony of gasps and chuckles. "Don't make drama," their parents laughed, their voices echoing in the space like forgotten prayers. Max stood above him, that mischievous grin plastered on his face, while Oliver stared up at the crowd. Shock mingled with amusement, a cocktail of expressions he didn't understand. His cheeks burned with a mixture of humiliation and hurt, anger bubbling within him. Why did he not command the same attention? Why was he always the one left in the shadows? As he picked himself up, brushing the dust from his trousers, his eyes caught something unusual. A stranger lingered at the edge of the church, cloaked in shadow. Their gaze pierced through the chaos, landing squarely on Oliver, something unspoken passing between them. Who was this person? What secrets hid behind their eyes? A chill skittered down his spine, a tingle of dread mixed with curiosity. Was there something they knew about him or about his family? His heart raced, questions swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. What did this Sunday hold for him? Suddenly, a loud clap reverberated through the church, drawing eyes back to the pulpit. The pastor's voice, firm and soothing, washed over Oliver, but he was no longer listening. He felt the weight of that stranger's gaze. The air heavy with secrets and possibilities. Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Ho 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 ho! And tell me in the comments I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Oliver's heart raced. The pastor's voice faded into a low hum. The stranger still lingered at the edge of the church, their gaze unwavering. His skin prickled with unease, a pulse of fear thudding in his chest. What did this person want? Max's laughter was a distant echo as Oliver stood, brushing himself off. He felt eyes on him. A mix of pity and curiosity swirling in the air. His parents' soft chuckles rang like hollow bells. Did they not see how the world had just shifted beneath him? With renewed determination, Oliver stole a glance back at the cloaked figure. The crowd stood, worshipping or whispering, oblivious to the storm brewing within him. The stranger took a wobbly step forward, and Oliver felt the world close in, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. "Oliver!" His mother's cheery voice cut through the tension. "Come here, don't be silly." But he couldn't move. Curiosity wrapped around him like a vine, pulling him forward. "Who are you?" His voice cracked, barely breaking the surface noise of the service. Everyone around him paused, shifting their gazes toward the mysterious stranger. Then something unexpected happened. The stranger lifted their hood, revealing a face that felt like a ghost from the past. Oliver's breath hitched. "You!" he gasped. The face was familiar yet alien, with scarred lines of pain etched deeply into it. "Oliver," the stranger said, voice low and rough like gravel sliding down a hill. "I'm here to tell you the truth." The congregation buzzed with whispers. A gasp rippled through the crowd as the stranger took another step closer. "You think your life is just boring hymns and old chairs? There's so much you don't know." The weight of those words crashed upon him, fierce and heavy. A knot twisted in his stomach. "What do you mean?" The stranger's eyes were wild, glinting with something akin to desperation. "About your family. About Max." At that moment, Oliver's world shattered. Max, the cute, chaotic younger brother, was suddenly intertwined in secrets he didn't even know existed. Whispers turned into murmurs, confusion erased laughter, and all Oliver could feel was the cold bite of betrayal swirling within him. "No!" He shook his head, a cloak of disbelief stitched tightly around him. "What are you talking about? Max is just Max." "Is he?" The stranger's gaze pierced through Oliver, heavy with unspoken truths. "You have to understand, nothing is as it seems." A ripple ran through the room, silence pressing down as the congregation held its breath. Oliver fought against the rising bile in his throat. He searched the crowd, looking for his parents' reassuring smiles, but they were frozen, petrified by the stranger's revelation. And then, just like that, everything changed. The church doors swung open like a scene from a movie, revealing a blinding light that flooded the somber chapel. The air thickened, and at the entrance stood another figure, silhouetted against the brightness, personifying shadows of Oliver's past. "Stop!" The newcomer shouted, voice like thunder tearing through the atmosphere. "You don't know the whole story." Oliver's heart raced, skittish like a wild animal trapped in a corner. "What?" he gasped, and the words came tumbling out. "What is going on? Who are you?" With that, the air hummed around them, the connection of truths and lies weaving a tapestry of confusion. Oliver's world was tilting dangerously, relationships hanging by a thread. What secrets were waiting to unfold? What truths were being hidden? The stranger's eyes reflected fear and urgency, You must decide, Oliver, now. And in that heartbeat, everything laid bare before him. Who could he trust? And what shocking truths lay ahead? The room hung in an uncertain hush, the spotlight suddenly shifting from the pulpit to the stranger, then from the stranger to the doorway. The newcomer stood frozen, a silhouette of authority against the light pouring in, like a thorn piercing the calm. Fear raced through Oliver, darting like a wild creature. "Stop!" the voice boomed again, unwavering yet strained. Its power rolled through the church, capturing hearts and gluing eyes to the figure, a woman, her silhouette sharp and compelling. The shadows danced around her as she stepped into view. "Who are you?" Oliver shouted, the words escaping in desperation. He felt the congregation lean in, breaths catching. Silence rippled, a tension palpable in the air. "Mom?" Max asked, his voice wavering as he instinctively took a step back. The laughter that once echoed through the church faded to a memory, replaced by a loneliness stark enough to cut. With a fierce determination, she pushed back the hood of her cloak, revealing a face lined by years Oliver had never seen. "This is where you'll find out the truth," she declared. Her eyes, bright yet haunted, searched the room. "Oliver, you need to listen. Your family, we're not who you think we are." "What does that mean?" Oliver's heart pounded against his ribs, fear intertwining with confusion. The walls felt like they were closing in. His breath quickened. "What's happening?" "It's time," the cloaked stranger said. "Time to reveal everything." And in an instant, it was as if the world shifted. The moment fractured, memories twisting and colliding. Oliver glimpsed flashes of other lives, other families, interlaced with his own. Faces he did not recognize, yet felt oddly familiar. "Oliver!" The newcomer's voice pierced through the chaos. "This isn't just a Sunday service. Your brother's not just Max. He is different." The congregation gasped collectively. Murmurs swirled like wind through leaves. Shock morphed into mounting confusion, eyes darting, words trapped like birds in a cage. "Different? How?" Oliver's voice shook, a creak of wood under pressure. "Max is the key," the woman said, each word dripping with urgency. "He was never meant to be with your family, just like I wasn't meant to be apart from you. We were taken, and now we're back." "What are you talking about?" Oliver shouted, heat blooming on his cheeks. "You're..." Got him. "Oh, oh, oh, oh." Yes. Yes. Ah. There. Right. That's the power of my trick. I decided to take another bite at very slowly a big human guy jumping jack and tumbling out of there. "What are you talking about?" "You're my mom!" His chest tightened, the room spiraling. "No!" she cried, pounding the air like it was a barrier. Not your true mother? That statement hit like a thunderclap. A crack heritage? He whispered, clutching at his chest, the entire congregation now a blur. Shadows began to shift and shrink, wrapping around those words. It's coded in your blood, the stranger spoke, urgency spilling from her lips. Something dark is coming, and you must know who you really are. The weight of her revelation cloaked him, an overwhelming tide of disbelief and confusion crashing against his senses. What do you mean? He gasped, a lump rising in his throat. Suddenly, the stained glass windows cracked, sunlight shattering into a kaleidoscope of color. The sound resonated, harsh and unexpected. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Terror lit in their eyes. The woman stepped back, flickers of fear illuminating her expression. The unraveling has begun, she murmured, a tremor in her voice. It's just the start, Oliver. You have to decide now. As Oliver looked around, everything, the laughter, the hymns, the shadows in his heart began to dissolve into chaos. The congregation stood unsure and frightened. Secrets slithered in the air, and all around him, uncertainty thickened like a fog. Was this just another twist in the story, or the beginning of the end? The room felt heavy, thick with confusion and terror. Oliver's breath came in shallow gasps, every heartbeat a drum echoing in his ears. What do you mean, my true mother? He pleaded, desperation climbing higher. The congregation shifted, a ripple of whispers swirling, eyes darting between Oliver and the newcomer. His heart raced as fear clawed at his insides. The woman's hood fell away, revealing hair streaked with gray, eyes sharp with anguish, yet soft at the edges. I had to protect you, Oliver, she continued, voice trembling. There are forces looking for you both. You're not just boys. You have a lineage tied to others, something ancient. Oliver's mind spun. What lineage? What are you talking about? He glanced at Max, whose face morphed between fear and confusion. The laughter, the warmth of their family life evaporated into the freezing silence. Suddenly, the air crackled. A burst of wind slammed the church doors wide open, bringing a howl of cold that swept through the sanctuary. The candles flickered wildly, shadows leaping across the walls. Everyone turned, gasps mixing with the rush of wind. Stop her! A voice rang out from the back. She's lying! In a flash, a tall man charged forward, long black coat billowing behind him like a dark cloud. His face was stern, marked by scars, an intimidating presence that filled the room with dread. You don't belong here, Nora, he shouted. You're a traitor. Oliver's heart dropped. Nora? Is that your name? He croaked, the ground beneath him feeling unsteady. Whispers erupted again, confusion and fear blending into shockwaves. She's here to tear your family apart, the man continued, pointing at her. She betrayed us all. The crowd buzzed, fear and curiosity battling for dominance, eyes darting from one figure to the other. The pastor stood frozen, mouth agape, torn between faith and disbelief. Why are you doing this? Oliver shouted, voice cracking. "Who are you?" "Oliver, listen to me," Nora cried, stepping closer, desperation flooding her features. "He's not who you think he is. He's been hunting us for years." The tension shifted. Max's face twisted in terror. "Who is he?" he whispered, eyes wide. In an instant, the man lunged, grabbing Max's arm. "He's the key to everything. They all are. We have to leave now." Panic exploded in the room. A mother yanked her child close, and whispers morphed into frightened shouts. "What's happening? Get away from him!" Before anyone could comprehend, there was a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, enveloping the church. The lights flickered, dimming as uncertainty plunged into chaos. Oliver shielded his eyes, the sound roaring in his ears like a thunderstorm. When the light finally faded, everything changed. The room was still, but not quite the same. Where once there were hymns, laughter, and warmth, now lay an unsettling silence, stood transformed, his small frame shimmering like someone blurred and abstract, a reflection of a boy, but not quite there. What's happening?" His voice trembled, hanging in the air, laden with questions. Then, without a word, the man turned to face Oliver, revealing a look of knowing, an unsettling certainty that twisted Oliver's insides. "You're not just a boy in a church. You're much more than that, and time is running out." "What have you done to him?" Oliver felt the heat rise once more, dread pooling in his stomach like molten lead. "Only what's necessary," the man replied, glancing between them, desperation in his eyes. "But now it's your turn to choose." The weight of uncertainty pressed down. Oliver's heart thundered. Every instinct screamed to run. But he was rooted in place, fear grappling with a strange longing for answers. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, Nora's voice broke through the chaos, fierce and defiant. "It won't make sense yet, but find the truth, Oliver. Don't trust him." The room spun as the man stepped back, shadows intertwining. And in the midst of it all, Oliver felt something shift deep inside him, a tremor of fate weaving through his bones. "Trust or deny," he whispered, sensing the world teetering on the edge. But what is the truth? The answer hung in the air, tantalizing and terrifying, as Oliver stood at the precipice, staring into the unknown. What choice would he make? What darkness lurked just beyond the light? Oliver felt the weight of the moment close in, a thick fog wrapping around him. Nora's words still hung in the air, heavy with fear and urgency. "Don't trust him!" The tension kept rising, stretching thin as more people leaned in, not wanting to miss a single word. "Oliver?" Max croaked, his face pale, eyes darting between the newcomer and the man in black. "What's happening? Is she telling the truth?" "Max, Oliver's voice cracked. Doubt swirled like fallen leaves in a storm. But before he could answer, the man stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "You don't understand," he barked, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. I'm here to protect you. The congregation gasped. A wave of shock rippled through the room. Nora shook her head. Desperation etched into every line of her face. You're the one who put them in danger. You're a monster. As she spoke, the air thickened with tension, a palpable anticipation, like a stretched string ready to snap. Oliver's heart raced. Then, with a sudden gleam in her eye, Nora whipped around, pulling something from beneath her cloak. A bright, glinting object that caught the light. It was a pendant hanging on a delicate chain, the center pulsing with a strange energy. "Oliver!" she cried, voice breaking. "This is yours. You need to remember who you are." The moment hung there, suspended in time, like he was a dear friend walking into his own surprise party. But he felt more bewildered than welcomed. With a gasp, Oliver reached out. The pendant felt warm against his skin as he grasped it. The world blurred for a fraction of a second, and in that blink, memories flooded him. Images unlike anything he'd ever known danced at the edges of his mind, flashes of laughter, of places he had never visited, of people he had never met. The faces felt familiar yet strange, colors sharp and vivid like a vibrant painting. Then the vision shattered, pulling him back into reality with an almost painful jolt. What was that? Oliver gasped, breathing heavily. The crowd held its breath, eyes wide, as if they were watching a movie unfold in real time. Suddenly a loud crash rang out from the back of the church, like thunder splitting the air. Everyone turned, startled, but no one was prepared for what came next. A group of figures stormed in, clad in dark uniforms, faces obscured by masks. "Search the area," one commanded, voice sharp and demanding. "We have to find them." Panic erupted. The congregation scrambled, screams mingling with chaos. Oliver's heart dropped. "No!" he shouted, fear clawing at him. Max clutched his brother's arm, eyes wide with terror. "What is happening?" "Stay close," Oliver urged, protective instincts kicking in. The man in black turned, eyes flashing with anger, as he prepared to defend them. Nora pushed forward, her expression fierce. "Leave them alone! You don't know what you're doing." The newcomers were relentless, pushing through the crowd. "Find Oliver!" one shouted. And the room plunged into sheer chaos as pews were overturned and whispers ignited into loud cries. Then, amidst the turmoil, a shocking realization crashed over Oliver. As the masked figures drew closer, his grip on the pendant tightened. The warmth seeped into his very bones, filling him with clarity. "Wait!" he shouted, voice soaring above the din, and the rush of adrenaline coursing through him. "What do you want with us?" The leader of the intruders halted and slowly pulled down their mask. Oliver's breath caught in his throat. The face was that of someone he recognized, someone he loved. "Mom?" he breathed, disbelief pulling at every fiber of his being. "Is that really you?" The room fell silent, all eyes trained on the heart of the storm. "Oliver, it's time," she whispered, and in her eyes he saw a depth of sorrow and urgency that shook him to the core. "It's time for the truth." Everything he thought he knew unraveled in that moment. The truth he desperately sought was just out of reach, and the shadows of his life twisted into something unrecognizable. The world seemed to shatter again, and he was left standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss. What other secrets lay hidden? Mwahahaha! What had he yet to uncover? Oliver felt the world tilt on its axis, each heartbeat pounding in his ears. The revelation hung heavy in the air. His mother's face, her words clawing at the walls of his understanding. "It's time for the truth." "What truth?" he whispered, dread and confusion swirling within him. The congregation was frozen, fear written across every face, eyes darting between Oliver and this woman who claimed to be his mother. The leader of the masked figures, still standing at the front, narrowed his eyes, determination etched into his features. "This isn't the time for games, Nora. You can't protect him forever." But just as Nora opened her mouth to respond, a low rumble echoed throughout the church, shaking the very foundations. The light flickered, shadows leaping wildly across the walls as the air thickened with unease. Oliver clutched the pendant tighter, its warmth pulsating through him like a heartbeat of its own. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the pendant, illuminating the entire sanctuary. Gasps erupted from the congregation as they shielded their eyes, the light intensifying until it felt like a supernova. "Oliver, no!" Nora's voice pierced the chaos, urgency flooding her words. But Oliver couldn't move. The light enveloped him, swallowing him whole. In that luminous moment, time felt suspended. Visions flooded his mind. Flickers of family gatherings, laughter shared around a table, faces smiling and familiar, moments he could never place. Then darker memories crashed over him. Images of betrayal, shadows lurking at the edge of his vision. Whispers that sent chills down his spine. The vision abruptly shattered, and Oliver staggered back, the world crystallizing around him again. But something felt different. The figure of the man in black began to change, twisting and blurring like smoke. "What is happening?" Oliver gasped, stumbling as the man transformed into another person entirely, an exact doppelganger of himself. The crowd gasped, shock rippling through the congregation like a wave. "Whoa!" Oliver's voice was lost in the cacophony of disbelief. The newcomer was him, yet not him. Same eyes, same face, but a darkness flickered behind his gaze. "Surprise, Oliver!" The doppelganger sneered, a chilling grin spreading across his face. "We've been waiting for you!" Heart racing, Oliver looked at Nora, searching for answers. "What does this mean?" She was wide-eyed, confusion etched on her face. This can't be possible!" The church buzzed with whispers, panic rising. "How can there be two of them?" a woman cried. "I'm not just a reflection," the doppelganger said, stepping forward with a confident swagger. "I'm everything you were meant to be. Your potential, your truth, the choice you're too afraid to make." Oliver felt betrayal flood through him like ice. "You're lying!" "Oh, I'm not. I can show you the real darkness, Oliver, the one you shy away from." Nora stepped forward, eyes blazing. No, you're a nightmare. The doppelganger shrugged, feigning nonchalance. Nightmares can be real, Nora. Just like every secret held in this room, the shadows in the church deepened, thickening the air. The congregation shifted, a collective gasp escaping as realization dawned. Relationships began to fray, eyes darting suspiciously among each other. What do you know? Oliver shouted, frustration boiling over. More than you can handle! The figure shot back, laughter echoing off the church walls. And now it's time to decide. Are you ready to embrace your true self? As the words hung in the air, a tremor shook the building, and as if in response to a silent command, the doors swung wide open again, revealing an endless abyss of darkness beyond. A world that felt both familiar and terrifying. Choose, Oliver, the doppelganger urged, voice low, seductive, pulling at the very essence of what he thought made him who he was. Join me, and I'll show you everything. Oliver's heart raced, mind whirling. The truth felt like shards of glass buried deep within him, and he stood there, on the precipice of 2 lives, trapped in a storm of loyalty and fear. Could he trust the familiar, or was the unknown his only path? As he stared into the abyss, the world around him trembled, and everything he believed in dangled at the edge of a knife. What lay waiting for him in the darkness? What terrible truth would he uncover? Oliver felt the weight of the moment close in, the world around him trembling under the decision he was about to face. The doppelganger stood before him, a twisted reflection of everything he thought he knew about himself. Choose, Oliver, the figure urged again, voice smooth and enticing, weaving temptation with uncertainty. Max clutched his brother's arm tighter. Don't listen to him, he shouted, eyes wide with fear. Remember who you are! But as he looked out into the darkness beyond the church doors, Oliver felt a pull, a magnetic force beckoning him closer. Was there really more to his family's past? The air felt thick, electric, crackling with an urgency that made it hard to breathe. He could see the congregation, faces pale, mouths agape. What do I do? He mumbled, the weight of truth pressing heavily on his shoulders. Nora stepped forward, her eyes blazing with a fierce determination. This is not who you are, Oliver. Don't let him manipulate you. Suddenly, an eerie silence washed over the room. The shadows flickered, and the temperature dropped, wrapping the church in an unsettling chill. The pendant in his hand heated, pulses radiating through him like a heartbeat. Then, without warning, the doppelganger laughed, a sound filled with an otherworldly echo that shook Oliver to his core. You think you're so clever? You know nothing! Before Oliver could react, a bright flash erupted from the pendant. The light spread, illuminating every corner of the church, revealing secrets buried deep in the shadows. Oliver instinctively shielded his eyes, drowning in a torrent of emotions. And that's when it happened. A figure appeared through the swirling light. A woman, dressed in, she exclaimed, voice resonant. "It's time for the revelation!" Everything fell silent again. "Who are you?" Oliver breathed, horror and fascination intertwining in his chest. "I am your true mother," she declared, each word like a breaking wave. "I have watched over you from afar." Gasps echoed through the church. Nora's jaw dropped. "That's not possible!" she cried, disbelief painting her features. "No!" Oliver shouted, heart racing. "You're lying! I know her!" He pointed at Nora, the warmth of their family still fresh in his mind. But the stranger pressed forward, unwavering. "You were taken from me as a baby. It was the only way to keep you safe. There are forces in this world that seek you. They need your power." The congregation shifted, whispers morphing into frightened chatter. The doppelganger grinned, eyes flashing triumphantly. "Safe from what? You're not in danger, Oliver. You are the danger." "No!" Oliver felt the room spin. "What do you mean? I don't understand." The woman locked her gaze on Oliver, her expression grave. "You must uncover the truth of your lineage. Your father is not who he seems. You're connected to something far greater and darker." The words hit him like a punch. A shiver threaded through the crowd as shock and disbelief settled over them like a heavy mist. Screams erupted then, panic swirling. "Get out!" a voice cried. In that chaotic moment, everything shifted. The walls of the church trembled, and the shadows formed shapes, reaching toward them. "This is the joining," the figure in robes shouted. "You must choose now, Oliver." In the midst of all the fear, the glowing pendant pulsed violently. It felt like it was alive. A warm presence pulling him toward an unknown future. "Join me!" the doppelganger beckoned, hands outstretched, inviting. "Together, we could control everything." "You don't have to fear the darkness." Oliver felt torn as his heart raced. Could he risk what he thought he knew about himself for the lure of power? "What if I refuse?" he stammered, voice quivering. "Then everything you care about will vanish." Just as the tension reached a breaking point, the ground shook violently, and the ceiling above them splintered. Light shot through in zigzagging shards, illuminating the terrified faces around him. Was this the end of his world, or just the beginning? The church trembled, and with a final deafening crash, whoa! The walls cracked open, revealing a swirling portal of colors and light. "Oliver!" shouted Nora, desperation thick in her voice. "Choose who you are before it's too late." As the choice loomed in front of him, he felt the weight of 1,000 possibilities. What would he lose? What price would he pay? And amidst it all, An insistent question echoed in his mind, louder than the chaos. Who was he really? Oliver felt the chaos close in, the world shifting beneath him. The doppelganger's sneer filled him with dread. The crowd held its breath, the air electric with fear and uncertainty. "Choose," the figure urged, voice smooth and alluring, yet full of malice. "Embrace your true self before it's too late." Max clutched Oliver's arm. Panic in his eyes. "Don't! We can't trust him!" But the shadow swirled around them, and Oliver's heart raced, caught between the darkness and the glow of the pendant. Then, just as the tension crescendoed, something inside the pendant burst forth. A brilliant blue light that shot upward into the rafters like a flare. Everyone shielded their eyes. A collective gasp echoing throughout the church. As the light enveloped the room, a sudden crack split the air. Windows shattered, sending glass flying in a shower of sparkling shards. The light took on a fierce intensity, and Oliver stumbled back, losing his grip on Max. "Oliver!" Max screamed, reaching for him, but Oliver felt weightless, drawn into the very core of the light. A force pulled him forward, and he closed his eyes against the brilliance. Inside that blinding radiance, he felt a flood of memories crash over him. Faces of people he didn't recognize swirled around him. Women with flowing dresses. Men in sharp suits, voices whispering secrets from a... Darkness flickered at the edges, threatening to swallow him whole. And then, just like that, the light flickered out. He fell back, gasping for breath. The church returned to focus, but everything felt off. Max stood frozen, eyes darting between him and the doppelganger. The man chuckled, a sound slithering into Oliver's bones. "Did you really think this was just about you?" he sneered. "Welcome back. You're not the only one who's been hiding." "What do you mean?" Oliver's voice trembled, confusion and fear draping over him like a heavy cloak. Suddenly, Nora stepped forward, hand stretched out, faces pale. "Wait! Stop!" Before anyone could react, the doppelganger lunged, his palm glowing with a dark energy that pulsed dangerously. A scream ripped through the air. Oliver turned to see Nora thrown backwards, as if she'd collided with an invisible wall. She crumpled, an ominous quiet settling in the space where her energy had been. "Mom!" Max shouted, rushing toward her. In that instant, another blast surged from the pendant, an explosion of light, knocking everyone off their feet. As the dust settled, Oliver looked around in horror. The doppelganger had changed again, morphing into someone else entirely. A woman in a royal blue dress, her hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes piercing through the chaos. "Mother is gone," the figure murmured, voice cut with anguish. "But I am here to reclaim you. You are mine." Oliver's stomach twisted, disbelief crashing over him like a wave. He stepped back as the woman raised her hand, a surge of energy cascading from her fingertips. The crowd recoiled, fear gripping them. "What is happening?" he gasped, heart racing. "History repeats itself, dear Oliver." she exclaimed, eyes bright with passion. "You are part of a legacy that cannot be contained. Don't you see? I've waited so long for you to awaken." But something about her words struck him. "No, you're not my mother." "Yes, I am, and you have to accept your fate." In that moment, the room exploded with noise, the air thick with shouting and confusion. People scrambled to their feet, panic rippling through the crowd. "Get out!" someone yelled, fear rising in pitch. Max stood, wide-eyed, backing away from both the doppelganger and the new woman. "Oliver!" he cried. "What do we do? Run!" The words spill from Oliver's lips, ringing with urgency. But just as he turned to flee, another shockwave hit, the ground beneath them quaking as cracks spider-webbed across the wooden floor. A portal, dark and spinning, forming near the altar. "This is not over," the woman shouted, a wild grin spreading across her face. "Oliver!" Max cried, voice breaking. In that moment, Oliver faced a terrifying truth. The woman wasn't just chasing them. She was part of them, tangled in shadows he couldn't yet grasp. At the edge of the chaos, the portal pulsed, beckoning. What secrets lay waiting on the other side? What devastation would follow if they entered? As fear raced through him, Oliver knew one thing. Whatever they faced, nothing would ever be the same again. Oliver felt the energy in the room crackle like static, the air thick with urgency. The portal pulsed, a dark invitation to step into the unknown. With each heartbeat, he felt the weight of the moment. He could see the fear in Max's eyes, the confusion echoing across the faces of his friends and family. "Oliver!" Max shouted, his voice cracking with terror. "What are you waiting for? We can't trust her. We have to get out." The crowd surged, a wave of panic washing over them. Bodies pressed together, breaths quickening, as whispers rose and fell like a storm. "What's happening? Who do we believe? We have to run!" Their voices bled into one another, a cacophony of fear. As Oliver stepped back, the air shimmered, and something changed. The figure of the woman in royal blue loomed larger, her eyes flashing with a fierce promise. "You can never escape your true nature, Oliver. Embrace it." But before he could speak, the pendant burst with an explosion of light, illuminating the entire church. Gasps echoed, and in that moment, time seemed to freeze. Then it happened. The ground shook violently as the shadows deepened and twisted, coiling around the legs of the congregants. A darkness emerged, thicker than the shadows, and in its depths a haunting familiar voice echoed, "It's time for the truth." The entire world felt like it was collapsing around Oliver. The air cracked with energy, and the lights flickered out, leaving only the ghostly glow of the pendant. From the haze emerged a figure shrouded in darkness. "Mom?" Oliver's breath caught in his throat. But as the figure stepped closer, the familiar face morphed, revealing deep lines of sorrow. The last echo of hope shattered into pieces. "Sorry, son," the stranger whispered. voice like cold steel. I had to keep you safe from the truth. That part of you needs to die. The world twisted like a bad dream. Oliver's heart raced, confusion spiraling out of control. No, it can't be you! He felt the walls closing in, suffocating under the weight of betrayal. But then the doppelganger surged forward, smiling with a knowing confidence. That's right, little brother. You're nothing but a pawn in this game. Stop! Max yelled, stepping in front of Oliver. You're lying! None of this makes sense. But with a flick of the wrist, the dark figure thrust out a hand, sending Max crashing into a pew. I told you both. I am your true legacy. No! Oliver screamed, fists clenching, desperation pouring into his veins. His eyes darted around, searching for hope, for someone to take action. Mom, please. But just then, the pendant in his hand ignited, a blast of light spilling forth. It connected with Max, enveloping him in a swirling glow that cast all shadows away. Max's eyes widened, transforming into a piercing silver, glimmering with power Oliver had never seen before. Oliver! Max's voice echoed, a mix of fear and strength, sharper than a blade. I know who we really are. The church gasped, frozen, every gaze turning to him. With a pulse that resonated through the deepest parts of his being, the truth unfolded within him. We're not just brothers, we're heirs to a legacy that binds us more deeply than blood. What? The crowd's voices erupted, merging into chaotic disbelief. The energy surged in the air, a tension taut as a bowstring. Everything they've hidden, everything they've told us was a lie, Max shouted, standing tall. Radiant energy crackling around him. Every face in the congregation shifted, shock washing over them like a cold wave. Oliver felt the pull of fate, the reality of who they were, crashing down like waves against a lighthouse. Your choice now lies before you, Oliver, Max said, his eyes fierce and unyielding. Will you accept this truth? A low rumble filled the air as the ground cracked beneath them, shadows reaching up like claws. In that horrific moment, with dread tightening in his chest, Oliver realized the gravity of the choice ahead. The fate of not just their lives, but the world. Together, Oliver barely breathed, heart racing. But what if those shadows harbored something darker? Would he be saving them or dooming them all? And as the darkness writhed, beckoning him deeper into the unknown, he knew he stood at the edge of something monumental. What awaited him on the other side? Would he uncover the truth, or would it consume him? Oliver stared into the swirling portal, the chaos around him fading into a muffled roar. The shadows twisted and taunted, crawling closer, while Max stood firm, eyes alight with determination. We can face this together, he shouted, his voice breaking through the noise. Together? The doppelganger's smile twisted, eyes gleaming with malice. Who will you choose, Oliver? Your brother or your destiny? Oliver clenched his fists. Pain shot through him at the thought of hurting Max. I'm not letting you or anyone else decide my fate, he yelled. But doubt clawed at him. The pendant pulsed in his hand, its warmth rising, igniting something deep within. He realized his true power wasn't about embracing darkness, it was about protecting those he loved. With that thought, he pushed the pendant towards the portal. This ends now! As the blue light spilled forth, it enveloped both brothers, casting away the shadows like a shield. A wave of relief washed over Oliver, mingling with newfound strength as the portal shimmered, brightening the room. "Oliver!" Nora cried, urgency gripping her voice. "Focus! You must channel what you've learned." Time felt frozen. Every heart in the room beat in unison, eyes glued to the radiant light. The doppelganger roared, trying to step forward, but the light pushed him back, the shadows retreating in fear. "No, you can't do this!" "I already am!" Oliver shouted, heart hammering. Suddenly, the brightness exploded, illuminating the church in vibrant colors. The warmth cutting through the cold dread like a dawn breaking. The shadows cowered in the corners, disappearing into nothingness. The doppelganger's face twisted in panic, splintering into streams of dark smoke. Max stepped to Oliver's side, their shoulders bumping together as they confronted the void of shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. "We have to end this! Together!" The brothers raised the pendant, channeling their energy as a brilliant beam surged from it into the portal, spilling light and warmth that chased away the dark. The echoes of their determination mixed with the cries of the condemned shadows as they burst forth in a final flash. A deafening silence hung in the air. The congregation blinked, confusion quickly morphing into awe. The darkness was gone. Oliver swallowed hard, feeling the weight of what had just happened. The shadows dissolved entirely as the radiant energy surrounded everyone, igniting hope and relief in their hearts. Max looked over, tears shining in his eyes. "We did it!" Nora stepped forward, pride spilling from her gaze. "You both embraced the truth and each other. That's what matters." Everyone breathed, the tension lifting like fog, revealing trust and love where chaos once threatened. As Oliver stepped down, the shadows might have retreated, but the truth of their lineage lingered in Oliver's mind. What other secrets lay woven into the fabric of their past? As hope blossomed, the question loomed large. What awaited them in the future, and would the remnants of darkness ever return? With cautious optimism, Oliver glanced at Max. The lingering tension shuddered into shared smiles. The love of brothers strengthened, unbreakable. Now, let me remind you, don't let this adventure end here. You must subscribe now. Hit that red button so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Press the like button right now to feed the algorithm so more people can join our incredible community. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear what you think. And don't wait 1 second longer. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Show that you truly care.